Hello there, my name is Cristian Oliva and I want to present you our work called Enhancing P300 Detection in Brain-Computer Interfaces with Interpretable Post-Processing of Recurrent Neural Networks. This work has been done at the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid in Spain in collaboration with the Universidad Salesiana Politécnica in Ecuador. First of all, what are brain-computer interfaces? BCIs are communication and control systems that allow direct interaction between the human brain and computers. These interfaces enable people to send and receive information from computers using neural signals. Basically, BCIs transform neural activity into external commands. One of the ways we can process the neural activity is using electroencephalography signals. With this, we can study brain activity and identify the patterns that can appear after a specific event. These patterns are known as event-related potentials. These events appear at specific times after the occurrence of a particular stimulus. Especially, the P300 is a well-known ERP that typically appears around 300 milliseconds after the stimulus presentation. However, ERP detection is, in general, a difficult task. EEGs have a lot of noise and also have too much redundant information. In addition to this, we have to consider the inter- and intra-subject variability. Considering intra-subject variability, we have to take into account biological factors, such as the hormonal cycles or the fatigue of a certain subject before the test. Also, we should take into account some psychological factors, such as stress or anxiety, right? The environment of the test is also important since the temperature or the humidity can alter the results. All of these factors can make some variation in the same subject. On the other hand, there is also an inter-subject variability. There are factors such as the age of the subject or also their genetics that can make differences between the subjects. At this point, our main goal is the building of a recurrent neural network architecture for detecting P300 ERPs. Of course, by understanding the P300 detection task and its complexity, and also searching for the interpretability of the internal behaviors of the networks. Then, we want to compare the results with the state of the art in terms of accuracy. We are using the Hoffman dataset, which follows the well-known oddball paradigm. Here, some stimuli are randomly presented to the subject, and our task is to identify when the target stimulus appears. When this happens, a P300 ERP should also appear after around 300 milliseconds. The dataset contains 6 different images, and in a certain run, only one image is chosen as the target stimulus. The brain signals are recorded with the 32 standard electrodes of the 1020 international systems, and to create the dataset, a window is recorded after each stimulus presentation. Each window has 32 samples extracted from 1 second. We propose to use recurrent neural networks, especially Elman recurrent neural networks. These are the simplest recurrent models, and here you have the equations and a diagram of its architecture. In the equation, we define H as the hidden state, Y as the output at time step t, and P as the final model prediction. As you can see, the hidden state H depends not only on the input, but also on the hidden state at the previous time step. This way, the final output Y is the response of the network after processing together the hidden state and the input signal. The vanilla Elman network prediction uses Y at the last time step. In other words, the network is trained on differentiating target and non-target at the last time step. Because of this, the internal behavior of the network should be learning the differences and keeping them until the last time step, right? So there must be some differences in the hidden states. Let's see an example. In this figure, we show a sample neuron activity on average when facing all non-target stimuli on the left figure versus its activity when facing a target stimulus on the right figure. It is just a single neuron from a model, not an average or something like that. So the output Y is not only depending on this activity, but also the rest of the neuron's activity. The vanilla network is going to consider only the final time step from this neuron. And yes, there is a difference between the target and non-target activation. One is above 0 and the other is under 0. However, this is not the only relevant activity to take into account. In the highlighted area, there is a bigger difference that the network is not using to give the final prediction. So, the main point of this work is, why don't we let the network learn which time steps to use? We propose a post-recurrent module. Looking at the diagram, our model must process the 32 input signals from 32 electrodes at every of the 32 time steps. With the recurrent layer, the network gives 32 outputs, Y, at each of the 32 time steps. Then, we add the post-recurrent module to give the final prediction P. Basically, we keep the output Y at every time step, not just the last one, and we add a mechanism that processes the temporal dimension. The interesting point here is that this module can be as complex as we want, and the only requirement for building this is to reduce the temporal dimension of the output Y. Remember that the output of the vanilla Hellman network P is Y at the last time step. So, with the post-recurrent module, we propose two alternatives. The reduce max, which consists of keeping the maximum value of the output Y instead of the last one, and on the other hand, the logistic regression, that just apply a logistic regression layer to give the final prediction P. In both cases, we are reducing the time dimension to extract only one prediction. Now, let's go with the results. Here we show the results of our models. We are using the balance accuracy instead of the standard accuracy because of the intrinsic imbalance of the dataset. There is only one target stimulus versus 5 non-target stimuli. We show the state-of-the-art Bayesian linear discriminant analysis, BLDA, proposed by Hoffman, and we also show the results with Hellman and LSTM. The first two models are the vanilla architectures, and the last four models have our post-recurrent module. First of all, our Hellman with a logistic regression module, the orange bar, get an 80% of balance accuracy, 9 points better than the state-of-the-art by Hoffman. In addition, not only the best option, but all the post-recurrent module networks outperform the state-of-the-art. Another point to consider here is that the Hellman networks have better performance than the LSTMs. Look at the results. The vanilla Hellman is better than the vanilla LSTM. The reduced max Hellman is better than the reduced max LSTM. And the logistic regression Hellman is also better than the logistic regression LSTM. In addition, it's interesting here to observe that the reduced max strategy performs well, but the logistic regression gets the best performance. This is an interesting result to analyze for interpretability. In the figure, we show the output activation Y for each target and non-target window. We take all the input data from the dataset and we split the target and non-target. Then we average the activity of the post-recurrent module, which is the final output Y at each time step. The red line is the average of the target activity, and the blue line is the average of the non-target. In the reduced max strategy, the network is learning to place the maximum output value at the most interesting interval, which is around 300 and 400 milliseconds. When the target stimulus appears, the activity increases above 0.5. This is an interesting result since we are searching for P300 ERPs and the network is clearly identifying this wave. This result has been extracted from a network trained on one of the 8 available users in the dataset. However, similar results have been obtained with the rest of the users. In the case of logistic regression, instead of learning the most relevant interval, the network is learning to identify all the relevant windows. Here, when the target stimulus appears, the activity starts to differ from 300 milliseconds onwards. Basically, in this example, we can see how the network is using two intervals to recognize P300 where the red line is bigger than the blue line, and also is using one interval at around 500 milliseconds to say it is not a P300, which is also relevant. In both cases, understanding the post-recurrent module layer helps us to analyze the interval behavior of the networks, because we can see where the network is focusing to learn the differences between the target and non-target stimulus. To give the final conclusions, we can say that the post-recurrent module increases the performance of the vanilla networks. In addition, all the test models have performed the state-of-the-art, and our best approach with logistic regression gets an 80% of balance accuracy, which is 9 points better than the state-of-the-art. Finally, searching for interpretability helps us to understand the problem and also get a better performance. Thank you.